Welcome, everyone, to Friday 15 with Master B2B. My name is Brian Beck. I'm here with Andy Hoare, my partner in our Thought Leadership Series and community of e-commerce executives in B2B. Andy, happy Friday.
Yeah, it's officially summer now because Memorial Day happened. And in Chicago, we actually got above 80 degrees for Memorial
Sweet.
Day. It was a shocker.
I remember your crazy weather there in Chicago during our summit, where it was 80 degrees one day and then raining and 20 degrees the next day, or snowing, actually. Remember that? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
well, it's in the 60s now after being in the mid 80s. So we're back to normal.
Awesome. Well, guys, we've got a great session today. We're going to be talking about one of our topics from the summit. We're going to recap on that, and we have a special guest we'll bring in just a moment. But of course, before we do that, we need to do our breaking news. Andy, look at this. SRS Distribution completes the acquisition of HVAC distributor Mingledorff's. That's a great name. Mingledorff's, this is a news story that came out this week. The acquisition of Mingledorff's adds HVAC distribution as a new vertical for SRS. Now, SRS was purchased by Home Depot as one of their major efforts to build their B2B volume and relevance. And SRS brings this acquisition of Mingledorff's brings an extensive product portfolio, robust distribution network, and established customer relationships that are highly complementary to SRS's greater existing business, creating even more and greater value for the pro customer. I'm reading a piece of the article there. Andy, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, newsflash, Home Depot is a B2B company that happens to have B2C retail locations now because they've crossed over the 50% threshold. Wow. They mentioned that. So they're more B2B than B2C now. Yeah. They bought Mingledorff's because, in their own words, it adds $100 billion in total available market or TAM opportunity to their 1.1 or $1.2 trillion TAM opportunity. And the last thing is the pro market in general. This was HVAC. So the HVAC pro market is $100 billion market opportunity for them.
Wow.
The pro market overall, which is across all of these different verticals, they estimate to be $700 or $800 billion. So now we know why they keep buying these companies, because putting B2C aside for a moment, this is untapped opportunity for them. And they can just go buy a company and add $100 billion TAM to their business. Makes a lot of sense.
It does. And there's a lot of, I mean, what's fascinating to me is I think we're increasingly seeing this convergence, Andy, between B2B and B2C. You see retailers now like David's Bridal introducing wholesale and B2B, parts of their business. We see, traditional B2C companies moving into B2B categories and vice versa. Some B2B companies going direct to their buyers in B2B and then introducing B2C capabilities and functionalities. So, there are a lot of differences between the two, but there's also a lot of synergies because ultimately the buyer is the same buyer. It's whether you're B2B or B2C, that buyer expects the same kinds of things. So it's fascinating to see this. Yeah, go ahead.
By the way, our special guest actually may want to weigh in on that one because they sell to both B2C and B2B buyers. And so we'll have to make sure we ask them about that too.
All right, let's not forget that. But before we get into our topic today, we want to talk about and remind everyone that our forum is available. This is free of charge to practitioners. It's only practitioners. No vendors or solution providers are in this online community. Go to our website, masterb2b.com, and look for the forum, and you can sign up there, apply for membership, and we'll go ahead and get you approved. Again, for executives, mid-level to high-level executives at B2B companies, manufacturers, distributors. So don't forget about our forum. We have lots of great conversations happening there. So Andy, our topic today is maximizing the tech investments you've already made. And I went and I pulled some statistics around this, which are rather revealing. Andy, this year, Gartner projects $1+ trillion in projected worldwide spend on new software systems and implementations this year. $1 trillion. Of course, these are everything from ERPs to e-commerce platforms, PIMs, DAMs, CRMs, AI-related systems, all sorts of different things. There's a lot in here. But here is the startling fact. I mean, everyone can say, yeah, sure, that's a big number. I expect that. 53% of SaaS licenses held by large enterprises sit completely unused. Isn't that incredible? 53% of SaaS licenses unused. We're buying stuff and not using it. this is great for the software and services companies out there. Great, sell me something, and then I don't have to service it. I don't have to do anything to support it.
Yeah,
But
in the short term,
yeah,
it's great for
yeah,
them, but in
yeah,
the long term, it's not, because
right.
somebody will buy a PIM that, PIM sales rep got paid, the company booked the revenue. 2 years later, nobody's done anything with the PIM, and then all of a sudden, people are saying things like, "Well, our customers aren't using our product." I mean,
Yep,
again, booking revenue is the highest priority, but you actually have to get people to use the product, and the companies actually have to use the product. And this statistic is pretty clear. I know just from the work I do that there are plenty of SaaS licenses where they're using like 20% of it. I mean, they're
right.
using it for a shopping cart, but they're not using any other functionality. Maybe for a good reason, which we'll talk about today. But in a lot of
Yep.
cases, it's because they just don't even know it's there.
Yeah, no, it's quite incredible. So we made this a topic at our Mindshare Summit several months ago at the University of Chicago. When it was snowing and then beach weather the next day. Anyhow, at the booth school, we ran a whole session on this, a panel discussion, where we talked about this. How do you get the most out of your existing technology? And one of our panelists is our special guest today. We're very excited to introduce Mr. Dale Edman, Vice President of eCommerce and marketing and shopper marketing. Dale, welcome. He is at Lipton Teas and Infusions, one of the captains of our industry, with lots of experience across different companies. Dale, welcome. Say hello and introduce yourself, and what the heck Lipton is for those who live in Europe.
Yeah, no, thanks, Brian and Andy. Appreciate the opportunity to be on. Yeah, so Lipton Teas and Infusions. I mean, quite simply, we sell Lipton teas, which hence the name, but we also have several other brands that you've probably heard of: Tazo, Pucka, PG Tips, if you're from the UK or have friends there. And we're owned, privately owned now. We were owned by Unilever and spun out about 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Our global headquarters are in Amsterdam, and our national headquarters are in Hoboken, New Jersey. So, and to your earlier point, yes, we do sell tea both online and in stores, but also to restaurants, convenience, cash and carry, all of those types of places. So we do have a B2B piece as well that we I think you're right. Everybody is B2B in some way or shape or form, right? Even though my focus today is largely on our online business, we definitely sell to businesses as well, and do that even through Amazons and the Walmarts of the world as well.
Yep.
So
it's that whole convergence thing. I mean, you're sitting in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
Dive into that a bit, but let's talk about the topic at hand here, Dale. So technology that you're not using or that you are using. I mean, where do you start? And what's the first step here to really understand, what's going on, right, with this situation when we talk about using technology that you don't have, you've already bought or not using, for example, and taking some action on it.
Yeah, I think the first key is you've just got to figure out what you have, right? And how do you do that? In my current role, I have a really good partner in procurement that keeps a good tab on all of that. We're a small enough organization that he knows what we've purchased and where the contracts are across the globe, and so he has become a necessary partner to figure that out. Some organizations are too big to do that, right? There's not just one procurement person, and I think in that situation, you have to just network among your peers and keep your ear to the ground and hear what's out there and what are people using and why are they using it and what are the benefits. I mean, a lot of it's just word of mouth and finding out and figuring out what does everybody have, what are they using it,
Right.
What do they like about it, and I think that's the key, to just trying to figure out what you have.
Isn't there some governance there? I mean, don't you think? And sorry, I need to jump on you there. Isn't there some responsibility either at the IT side of things or in the procurement side of things to keep track of this stuff? I mean, it seems crazy to me that over half of these softwares are not being used. That's an insane number, right?
Yeah, it is. No, it's an absolutely. I'm staggered by that, but I think you sign the contract, procurement knows when it is, what it's for, and when it, when the next kind of cycle is, when does it renew, or when do you need to give notice, and all of that. But I don't think procurement and even IT to some extent isn't day-to-day using the software, right? And I wonder too, how much of that 50 or 47% or 53% that's not being used is extra licenses, right? Sometimes you buy seats and you buy 25 seats and you're only using 2, right? Or and so while yes, I think IT and procurement bear that, I think the individual business owners do as well, right? And that's where you have to, and so this gets into, like, well, what do you do? What do you start to do about this? How do you measure it? And how do you, what do you do about it, right? And I think one of the things for me is every time a contract's about to renew, 60, 90, whatever, 120 days ahead of that contract renewing, I usually either I ping my procurement partner or he pings me, and we get together and say, hey, the XYZ contract's coming up. What do you like? What do you not? What do Global's looking at bringing them in as well. I think I can get us more for less. And, he's doing his job and actually getting us more sometimes. Sometimes it's more that we may not use, right? That kind of adds to this whole problem in some ways. But we have that conversation, well ahead of, again, of the renegotiation to make sure that we're, if we have bought extra license, we're trimming that back. If we need to expand in an area, we're looking to do that. So I think that's really important.
So the challenge here is the handoff, isn't it? Right. So you go to the evaluation, you hand it off to the procurement people who negotiate the contract. You may not even know exactly what they end up negotiating in the end, right? Because not all this stuff is always in the contract. It just says enough seats or 50 plus. Is that 51? Right. Is that 8,000? You don't know. Then it comes back to you. You guys operationalize this. You use it a certain way. And then it comes up for renewal again, and it's back to the procurement people who don't necessarily know how you were using it. I thought you told a really good story about how, you might have a platform that has a PIM built into it. But the story you told at the summit was, that wasn't good enough for what you needed to do. Maybe it was good enough for somebody else at Lipton, but not good enough for you. So you had to have Salsify. Why don't you tell us how you thought through that?
Yeah, no, I think, and this was actually at a previous life, but, we have these massive PIM systems with all this data in them and all the stuff that you need. And yet, as you sit in e-commerce or in the marketing function, you're thinking about, well, how do I get the right content to my partners at Amazon, at Walmart, at Target, at, Home Depot, whoever those partners are. And each of them have a little bit different requirement for content. So you're doing different bullet points and different descriptions and different keywords because different things play at different places. And you need a PIM. We needed a PIM that would allow us the flexibility to kind of do that on the fly without needing IT's involvement. And so Salsify was exactly that, right? They were the build themselves as the marketer's PIM initially, right? They were all kind of WYSIWYG, right? Within the browser, you could do these things, upload those things, add the attributes, have a whole set of descriptions for one customer and a whole other set of descriptions for another. But then all of a sudden now you've got 2 PIMs. you got the PIM that's that's got all 250,000 products in it that are half of which have been deprecated but still need to maintain the data on and all of the information.
Right.
And yet then you have another PIM on the side that's the marketer's PIM, and that's another way that we end up overlapping and not using all of this.
Right. So some of the functionality is overlapping. So what did you do about it, Dale? I mean, you have these 2 systems. I mean, it's just a reality that we have to have 2 systems, or is there some reconciliation or consolidation strategy? I mean, how do you think about, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, eventually someone's going to come in, whether it's IT who's tired of managing, 4 or 5 different platforms.
Right.
And they come in and say, hey, we're going to have one platform. Or, it's you on the budget side saying, look, we're paying for 4 or 5 different things. We've got to get more efficient. In that particular case, we ended up trying to roll the requirements from what we were using into a more enterprise type PIM situation, and ended up going within River in that case.
Yeah.
We did end up losing some functionality too, though, right? Like it didn't all poured over. So, but
well, that's that you just said is really important, because there are going to be some trade-offs if you're going to be fully leveraging your investments. Some portions of the business have to compromise, don't they?
Yep, they do. No, that's absolutely true. You have, and there's going to have to be some of that, right? But you got to make sure you get enough of your requirements. Otherwise, you're back to keeping everything in spreadsheets again, and we haven't gotten anywhere, right? So there's a lot of communication that has to happen, a lot of networking with your peers throughout the organization too, and really starting to build that coalition and consensus across the org of what's needed and what are the true requirements for the software that you're buying.
So Dale, this is fascinating because, we talked about the problem today, but the problem going forward is actually going to get worse. I know in my conversations with software providers to a company, they're telling me that because of what they're able to use with AI, they're able to crank out features at a much faster clip. And so what used to take 12 months is now like in a 3-month window, which arguably means that this problem is going to be 4 times worse, because in the course of a 1-year contract, you're going to get 4 times as many features as you would used to get. And so that means somebody on your team or somewhere is going to have to keep track of 4 times more stuff coming through. So what are you going to do about that?
Yeah, no, and I'm already starting to see that as with some of the partners that we work with today. We're starting to see more them doing more faster. Right. I think as part of that annual cycle where you review your contracts, I think it's really important as well to have a formal meeting with the vendor to really have them kind of repitch you, if you will. It just so you understand what are the new things that they've launched, what are the new features that they've added, what are the new things. Oftentimes they're looking to charge for those things, so they're doing that anyway. But I think even if they're not, it's really key that you're engaging them as well in kind of I don't want to call it a business cycle, but I think it's really good to just go back through that and have those conversations with your partners to really understand where are they now versus where were they a year or 2 or 3 years ago when you signed them to begin with.
Yeah. Well, let's get your reaction. We asked our community, Dale, are you fully or mostly utilizing the technology you've purchased for your business? It's interesting. It was a 60-40 split. 60% said, no, we don't fully use our technology. Any reactions? It's kind of what you're saying, but I mean, it reflects the numbers that we saw in the research.
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think it reflected that that 53%. I'm not necessarily surprised by that too, because I think as all of us in our daily lives are running leaner, right? We're trying to do more with less. I think that's where this starts to fall apart. I was thinking about this the other day as I was talking to a vendor. They're pitching these great new features, which would be fantastic for me to have. But then I stopped, and in the back of my mind, I said, but what can I actually action what they're going to give me, right? Like, I mean, I was ready to sign, to pay, to rethink my budget. And then I thought, wait a minute, if I get this, do I have the capability on my team throughout the organization to action the insights that this is going to bring me? And I think that there's a gap there too that we could probably hold another topic of Friday 15, but what does that look like as well? And that's another thing. And when you think about this whole topic, I think as business owners, we have to be really disciplined about that kind of conversation. It's easy to get excited about the shiny new toy and the new software that's going to save all of our problems, right? And it's going to make us so much more efficient and do all these things. But in the end, can we do everything we want to do with it?
Yeah. One. I know we're coming up on time here, but one question for you, Dale, related to our topic earlier. The convergence of B2B and B2C. I mean, you're sitting in the seat there. Are you seeing more of these technology vendors addressing both sides of the equation? In other words, your B2B needs for digital commerce as well as B2C?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think they are. I think they're all trying to expand their market, and they see that B2B is an expanding market. You know, I've been in B2B for a long time, way before it was sexy. I'm not sure it's sexy yet, but
is it sexy? Oh, cool.
Right. But I mean, you guys understand that, right? I mean, but absolutely, I think the vendor. Yeah, I think because the scale is so much bigger in B2B, right? Like I manage a catalog of 400 or 500 products.
Right.
On the B2B side, you manage catalogs of 10, 20, 100,000 products, right? So the scale and the needs are so much bigger that I think absolutely you see the vendors and partners converging on that.
Well, we're going to keep talking about that convergence and you know what's happening in the industry, and you're a great example of that, Dale. And we appreciate your time and your advice, your sage advice. And we'll, you know, we look forward to having you back, but we got to wrap it there for time's sake. So thank you, Dale. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So Andy, interesting conversation. A couple quick announcements before we wrap our Friday 15. Number one, our Nexus service is available to folks. I want to remind you, this is your on-demand expertise from a panel of deep experts and former practitioners, as well as our overall network of practitioners. We can provide to you to answer quickly your questions, avoid making the wrong decision, get you answers, and even provide now consulting and interim and even full-time services for your business. So check out Nexus on our website, masterb2b.com. It's your personal digital lifeline. And then I want to remind everyone, Andy, that our Friday 15 is available in podcast form on your favorite podcast service. And please give us a rating and review, only if positive. Anyway, Andy, any final takeaways before we wrap our Friday 15 for this week?
Yeah, you know, as Dale was talking, I was thinking this brings up this issue once again, and this is going to be a perennial issue about speed.
Yeah.
Because the pace at which change is happening is increasing at an increasing rate. And things like this are just yet another example of where, you know, there's only so much you can digest and so quickly, but something's going to break here because the world is not slowing down, it's speeding up. So either companies are going to have to speed up or the vendors are going to have to find a way to make this stuff more digestible. But, you know, it'd be like going to a restaurant and ordering a burger and then they come out with 7 dishes. Right. I was like, well, I'd love to be able to eat all this stuff. And technically I need to eat this food over the course of my life, but I can't eat it all right now. And so the question is, do you get a bigger stomach or do you eat less? And I think something's wrong here. And this is what's going to have to change.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we're going to have to leave it there, folks. Thanks again for joining our Friday 15 this week. We'll see you on our next episode next week. And don't forget to check us out online. Give us a review. Thank you, everybody.